validating it and participating in the existing order. So that is my point, is that you're a theorist, not a practitioner. And you could only be so passionate in being a theorist. So why don't you calm down and speak politely and civilly? Because if you were so passionate, you'd be building something real to do something. Passion manifests in action. You're not passionate, you're emotional.
There's
You're emotional.
three of my role models, right? Three of the biggest socialists that you could think of: Che Guevara, Patrice Lumumba, Nelson Mandela. What do they all have in common?
Nelson Mandela, you got to be kidding me here, son. You got to be kidding me. You
Okay,
disrespect both of us.
if you want to
You
bring up
got to be
another
kidding
one,
me.
we could say Patrick,
You
we could
got
say
you
Thomas
got to
Sangara, Thomas
you
Sangara,
got to be
or
kidding me.
you're pointing one, right? All these individuals were freedom fighters. They did the same thing you said, right? They actually put their mouth where their money is. They led their own
So
liberation and fought
no,
for their,
sir.
and they were all attorneys. They were all lawyers. They all
No, sir.
operated
No,
within the
sir.
system.
I like how you cherry pick that to try to identify lawyers so that you can take the safe route, the cowardly route. You see, you're scared to actually
Cowardly,
buck up against
cowardly,
this. Yes,
cowardly,
it's
cowardly.
cowardly. It's
What am I
cowardly.
supposed to do?
And I'll tell
Strap a
you why.
bomb to my
I'll
chest
tell
and
you
go
why.
to a grocery store? Come on,
That is an
man.
option, no doubt.
No, it's
That's no
not.
doubt
That's
an
not. Let's be
option. Yes,
real.
it
Let's be
is.
real here. It's
See,
not.
no, that is real.
It's
That is
not.
real. And I'll give you an example.
It's
You're saying
not.
that you're sophomoric. Silence. Let me tell you why. You
Mm,
see,
go ahead.
there's a group called the Weather Underground in the United States. Are you familiar with the Weather Underground?
I'm not. Please enlighten
You're,
me.
s- oh, not the socialists, not aware of it. Fascinating. So these are real revolutionaries. And you see, as has been said many times, often revolution brings significant change, radical change. Sometimes blood must spill. And in the case of the Weather Underground, it was a group of white revolutionaries in America, the children of the middle and upper class, who believed that some persons should be better included, blacks, and also that we should have a more equitable, fair society, something more akin to socialism. Knowing that such a radical change is needed, they had to take radical measures, which included bombing. Now, understand this. I reference Joseph Jugashvili because when you want to talk socialism, communism, and mind you, these are fine differences that I don't think the audience really needs to get too deep into. I don't want to lose the audience. Communism and the Soviet Union, they can understand better. Obviously, it lost its way. But the fact of the matter is, to create that revolution, the family of the Tsar had to be done away with. The existing structure had to be done away with.
Bolshevik
Um,
resolution, right?
that's correct. But even before it was a Bolshevik revolution, it was a revolution of the Soviets. And then it was kind of taken over by the Bolsheviks. But that's a longer story. But what I'm pointing out to you is that the most cowardly thing to do is to work within the system. And the most radical thing to do that's most likely to achieve your goal is one that crushes the system. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. You mentioned Nelson Mandela because he aligns with what you're doing as an attorney. And Nelson Mandela actually is someone we have to respect for the fact that he did, was it 27 years in prison? 27, 28,
27 years.
something like that. Yes.
Yes.
And when he came out of
Rodham Island.
prison, yes, when he came out of prison, he betrayed the entire country. And I don't blame him because 27 years of incarceration is something that is
Right.
going to break you as a man. So he betrayed the entire nation. It's well known in South
Right.
Africa,
I,
even
I'm,
among
I
the
agree
free
with you.
Zulus.
He did.
So now it's strange that you use that as an example. Now, if
But
you
no, I'm talking about
compare
the
that to,
Nelson Mandela that led himself into prison. He was don't negate what he did in the past that made him who he is. The man led a freedom fighting fighters in Angola,
but
and
you're talking about a socialist revolution, and Nelson Mandela did not achieve a socialist revolution. So if you wanted to discuss a revolution that was socialist truly or socialist leaning, then you'd have to be talking about people who actually achieve such. You might want to consider a Mao Zedong. You might want to consider a Vladimir Ilyich Prokhanov Lenin. You want to
all of
consider
which were part of the PMC, all of which were part of the managerial class, all of which played the system or were part of they weren't peasants. Maybe in Mao's case, he led a peasant uprising, but in the case of all these other individuals that I mentioned, Che Guevara and also Patrice
you see.
Lumumba, they were part of the aristocracy class.
No, sir. You are misinformed or dishonest, one or the other, or both. For example, you mentioned Che Guevara, Ernesto Che Guevara de la Serna, and Che was an Argentine doctor training to be such, and he ended up in a Cuban revolution. So he was not participating in the Cuban system at any level. You probably should have used Fidel as an example. Fidel came from a wealthy family. Do you know what Fidel was studying? This would have been a better example. Do you know?
Law. If
Come
I
on.
was he the lawyer and then
okay.
Fidel was the doctor?
Aha. Aha. No, you got that backwards. Che was the physician. Fidel was studying what?
Law.
Okay,
so made a mistake. But here's but my point is still valid. These were individuals who played within their system and were part of like a middle class aristocracy. Freaking Che Guevara traveled all across South and Central America.
Latin America, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on his.
But
and he just did it.
Attention, though, see, you should be able to learn from these people in the past. If you paid attention, Che did not exist within the system that he created revolution in. He was not in the Cuban system. And furthermore, Fidel, if you would observe, he was on the university, and the university is a critical place. Now, remember, this usually goes on in undergrad, not in grad school, when you find people organizing. And Fidel had to stand trial. And at the point in which these people stand trial, that's when they become further radicalized and they end up being guerrilla fighters. And Che wrote a beautiful manual on this. I think it was called La Guerra de las Guerrillas, something like this. And so the point is, if you've observed them and learned, why are you even wasting time going into law school? Because that's not how the revolutions were fought. What they realized is that the systems were immoral, unethical. They were anti-socialist, and you could not operate within the systems. And then they turned to guerrilla war. So I'm saying skip all the silliness and let's get after the organizing and let's get after the guerrilla war. If you truly understand the things you speak of, and you certainly don't, you would know that Che and Fidel met outside of Cuba. Many revolutionaries often rendezvous in Mexico City, might be a place to visit, study the history. You even had Trotsky was murdered there. And then they took the grandma over to Cuba and they engaged in guerrilla warfare. They were attacked upon landing. They went through the Sierra Maestra Mountains and they had to overthrow Fulgencio Batista through violence, buddy. So why are you suggesting that you getting a law degree is going to substitute for the necessary violence? And here's another socialist, a great socialist. His name was Adolf Hitler. He's one of the few that
come on, brother. Don't bring up Adolf Hitler. If you're saying the National Socialists are socialists, then you might think that the Democratic Republic of South Korea is a democracy.
Oh my!
They co-opted the name of socialism.
Now you're being
dishonest. No, you're being dishonest, brother. If you seem like you're a very knowledgeable person.
No,
you seem like you're very
more knowledgeable than you are. I'm not very knowledgeable. I'm more knowledgeable than you are, and that's an important
brother. Come on now. Come on. You lose credibility for saying that, though. Come on now. You don't say the Nazis are socialists. They're fascists. I'm not a simple-minded person, but please,
no, you need
don't insult me.
Be silent. Let me teach.
But I have to push back against
You're a liar. No, you don't
need
to push back because you don't have enough knowledge.
The chat can look it up
You don't have enough knowledge to push back.
If you guys are here, please look it up yourself. The Nazis are not socialists.
Scholar.
The Nazis are not socialists, brother.
You're repeating yourself and you're not giving examples. You're literally just repeating a conclusion with no evidence. Let me teach.
Let me cook.
Let me teach. You can't cook because you don't have knowledge. You just said that the Nazis are fascist. You don't even know where fascism comes from.
It comes from Mussolini. Mussolini, the fascist is a bundle of sticks.
Who is the chief philosopher of fascism?
You tell me.
Aha. I have to tell you because you don't know.
Because it doesn't matter who's the chief philosopher of fascism. If the Nazis are fascists.
Yes, it does matter.
They're not socialists. Yes, it does. How are the Nazis socialists? Please explain this to me.
Now, here's the funny thing. So you start off telling me that the Nazis are fascist, and then I asked you, where's fascism come from? And then you start talking about the Italians under Mussolini.
It comes from Mussolini.
So now we see that paradigmatic fascism is not Nazism. It's Italian in origin, and it was under Mussolini, but his chief philosopher was a man named Giovanni Gentile. But you didn't know that because you don't know anything about fascism.
I don't think
and
it
that's why you're
matters.
confused.
I don't think it matters.
No, all of a sudden
where
it
the
doesn't
origin of
matter. When we
fascism
find
comes
your
from. It
ignorance,
doesn't
all of a
change-
sudden it doesn't matter.
It doesn't change the fact that the Nazis
do
are
not yell your way out of
fascist.
the argument. Calm down.
It
Do
doesn't
not
change the
interrupt your
Nazis
way
are
out of the
fascist.
argument.
Please don't interrupt.
Please do not
Okay,
interrupt.
go ahead.
Do not
Please
interrupt.
go ahead. Please go ahead, brother.
You don't have
Please
to
go ahead.
interrupt. You guys always do this. When the truth comes out, you always do this. When the knowledge
Nazis
is
are not
shown to be
socialists.
in great lack, you
The
always do
Nazis
this.
are not
Now,
socialists.
silence.
All right, go
Now,
ahead.
you're talking about the Nazis and you're saying that they're not socialists. Well, that's very curious because Nazi, do you know what their organization is
National
called?
Socialists. The National Socialists.
Do you know the full name of the organization?
National Socialists.
No, I said,
That's
do
what
you know
you're
the
gonna say.
full name?
What's
Do
their
you know
full
the
name?
full name?
What's
I'm
their full
asking
name?
you, do you know their full name?
I'm telling you, I don't know their full name. I just know it's short for
Okay,
National
thank you.
Socialist.
Thank you very. I appreciate that. You see, so
I'm sure
so
it's something
often
in German.
we find that you have a major lack of information, but you're so confident in your knowledge, and that's
I
the
feel
problem
like this
with
is
you.
irrelevant right now
So-
because you're trying to tell
No,
me
you
that the
feel it's
Nazis
irrelevant
are socialist
because you're
because of their
ignorant.
name.
You
If their
feel
name
like
has
it's
the word
irrelevant.
socialist, does
Calm
that
down,
make them
sir.
socialist?
Calm down. Calm down. You feel
If
it's
I call
irrelevant
myself Michael
because-
Jackson, does that
just
make me
calm
Michael
down.
Jackson?
Just calm down, please. Please calm down.
No.
You have a habit of when you find that you're ignorant about something, you say it's irrelevant. And it's not irrelevant just because you don't know. So now I'm going to teach you. so you can
brother.
know.
No, brother.
I'm gonna
Saying that the
teach you
Nazis are
so you
socialists
can
because
know.
they call
Now-
themselves socialists does not make
Please
them
stop.
socialists.
Please
Let's
stop.
look at
Now,
look at their agenda. Look what they did. Look at
sir,
their policies.
you don't know
Look-
anything. Stop. Now let me explain something to
All
you.
right, go ahead. Go ahead. Explain to me how the Nazis
Yes.
are socialists.
So, number one, you claim that the Nazis are fascist. I've already disproven that the Nazis are fascist, and you helped me do it. You have, and please
How?
don't interrupt again. It's messing up the conversation. So please close your mouth. The fascists are
You have this way of being
Italians.
insulting. You have this way
Sir,
of being insulting,
please,
which I
that's-
think is really
please, you keep
disruptive to
interrupting.
discourse.
The reason that you get disrespected is because you behave disrespectfully. You cannot keep your mouth closed while I'm speaking. So yes, you will be treated as a
You are
person who
speaking
is
hot
ill-mannered.
garbage.
You
Hot
need to
garbage.
stop speaking.
You are saying the Nazis are
Sir,
socialists.
you're
They're not.
uninformed.
I have to push
you-
back.
You
Go ahead,
cannot push
please.
back because you're without knowledge. You
Push.
said that they were fascists. I asked
They
you
are
where's
fascist.
fascism come from. You said Italy. So you already
Does it
started
matter
debunking
where
your
it
own
comes from?
argument.
A better question
Then
would be,
I
what
asked
is
you,
fascism?
calm down. Please calm
What
down.
is
Then
fascism?
I asked you who created fascism? Who is the chief ideologist of fascism? You said it was Mussolini, which lets me know you don't know anything because the chief architect of fascism is Giovanni Gentile. Marquette, how do you know? I've read all of the books on it, literally all of the books. And they were written by A. James Greger, who happened to be my mentor at the University of California, Berkeley, who happened to also be advisor to 4 different presidents. He's the foremost scholar. So I literally know this from the one expert. And the reason I read all of his books is because he is the greatest expert on the topic. So to say
Please.
that you're woefully unprepared would
Marquette.
be an understatement. You sound like an
Marquette,
idiot.
let's get to the point here. Let's get to the point here. Please
and-
explain how the
and
Nazis
again,
are socialists.
You keep saying Marquette,
You have
which
yet
shows
to
me your
explain to me
IQ.
how the
Your
Nazis
IQ
are
is too
socialists.
low. Your IQ is too low. I already explained to you the name is pronounced Marquette, and you're pronouncing it incorrectly, which shows me you have issues with short-term memory. Now, you're crying out because you've been exposed for being ignorant. You keep interrupting because you don't want the truth to get out. You're a pathetic character who clearly is undereducated, underinformed, and you overestimate yourself. Now, you said the Nazis are fascist. I've just disproven that the Nazis are not fascist. In fact, fascism was not a racist ideology. The evidence of such is that you would find Jews were participating in the administration of the fascist regime. And Mussolini himself had writings documenting his respect for the Jews. He also had Jews in his family. You see, fascism was actually co-opted by Nazism, which was a different thing. And if you want to look at Nazism and its origins, you can look at Karl Haushofer, you can look at the Tula Society, you can look at various thinkers that influence what became Nazism. You can look at American eugenicists. So Nazism and fascism is radically different. Now, that's been clarified further. Let's elaborate on what Nazism is. You claim to understand Nazism, but you certainly do not. You don't even know the name of the Nazis. I said, what's their full name? You don't know. They are actually called the German Workers' Party, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or in the German, the Sozialistisches Deutsches Arbeiterspartei. Well, Marquette, why do you know this so well? I literally studied it. Unlike you, I didn't study in YouTube University. I studied in a real university under something called an expert. You see, so when you say that they're not socialists, no, actually they were. They were socialists and racist. And the problem is that you want to protect your socialist claims so much, you can't acknowledge that they were socialists. Well, Marquette, is the German Workers' Party, did they do anything for workers? Absolutely. It's replete with examples. They were the first to start giving health care to workers. They were some of the earliest people to give workers vacations abroad. Financed by who? Financed by the government. That's big government. That's what socialism is. You take care of the workers. They even put out propaganda campaigns trying to bring dignity to work and also showing workers how to clean. And they started having standards for workers. And everything about them was very much so socialist. They actually cared about their people. It's really impressive. They had a campaign to stop cigarette smoking. They were not capitalists. In fact, they hated capitalists. They called America plutocracy, and they said that it was run by a certain group of people who are banksters. They were against the international banking industry, even though they did take loans, but they were against usury. So yes, they were certainly socialists. They were just also racist, and that's okay. This is not to suggest that socialism is always racist. Their brand of socialism was racist. And the Italians were fascists. In fact, they invented fascism. You, sir, are an uninformed liar. But let us remember, this was actually not the core of the discussion. The reason you got onto this discussion is because I informed you that when you're claiming passion, you're not passionate, you're emotional. If you were passionate, you'd be organizing for revolution. You've done none of the above. You've only babbled. Me, I'm actually organizing for revolution. Revolution requires people, resources, community. It requires serious adherence to leadership and hierarchy so that they can't break apart your organization, jail you, and kill all of you. I think Iran is a great example of what happens when you go up against the capitalist beast. They try to take out the leader, and when they took out the first leader, then the second leader rose up, and they're still fighting back. Now, I yield the floor to you.
You mentioned the Nazis' name, National Socialist Workers' Party, right? Who were the first people that they killed in the Holocaust?
Oh my, are we talking about the Holocaust? Extraordinary. So the Holocaust, if it occurred, was not one event. It was something that gathered over time. There were many groups that were taken out. The homosexuals, stop it. The homosexuals were a part of it. Those who were genetically inferior were a part of it. Those that they considered to be non-German and dangerous to the German economy. And those persons need not be named.
You didn't mention the socialists that they killed, the communists that they killed.
No, sir.
There was a whole,
no,
there was a whole socialist party outside of the Nazis.
No, sir, you're lying.
Who did the brown shirts
assault? Stop it there. Stop it there.
Who did the brown shirts assault?
They were the socialists. So that's what you need to understand.
They weren't the socialists, brother.
Communists.
Where did the capitalists follow?
Brother, please stop.
Where did the money go? Where did the money go? Where did the money support?
To know that the system that they overthrew was a capitalist system. Do you know what it was called before the National?
The Weimar Republic, of course.
The Weimar Republic. That's right. That was a capitalist system. Thank you.
It was a liberal government system. It was a liberal system. Yes.
It was a capitalist system. Thank you.
But where did the money? Where did the aristocracy go? Who did support? Where did the aristocracy go? All the guys, the founders of Porsche, the founders of Puma, all these capitalist money went to support the Nazis because the Nazis were supporting them. Because ultimately, it wasn't a socialist system. A true socialist system would be focusing on nationalizing all these organizations instead of having them have their business owners intact.
Information, sir.
No, sir, I do not.
You have a sad lack of
quite frankly, I'm very confident in my knowledge on this thing. To know that National Socialists are not socialists. Can I please finish my point? Can I get to my point? Can I get to my point?
Sure. And then tell us who the socialists are.
Nazis were supporting.
Like what government is a socialist government?
To say that Nazis are socialists because they had that in their name. is to say that the Democratic
I never
Republic of
said that.
North Korea.
I gave you specific examples. Deal with the examples. Don't deal with your